The massive space station hung in orbit around Kepler 442b like a gleaming metal city. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Council had met here to discuss matters of peace, trade, and law among the 47 known intelligent species. Everything followed ancient rules and careful procedures that had kept the galaxy stable for millennia. Ambassador Veltar stood in the main communications center, his crystalline body reflecting the soft blue lights of the control panels. As First Contact Administrator, he had overseen the peaceful integration of 6 new species during his 300-year career. Each time the process had been the same. New species would wait at the edge of council space, send formal requests, and undergo months of careful evaluation before being granted permission to approach the station. Today was different. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies," reported the young Aquari technician, his amphibious features showing confusion. "The sender is ignoring all standard protocols." Veltar moved closer to the communication array. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a being unlike any in the Council database. The creature had pale skin, short dark hair, and wore a simple blue uniform. Most disturbing were its eyes. They moved constantly, taking in everything with an alertness that made Veltar uncomfortable. "Greetings, unknown station," the being said in surprisingly clear galactic standard. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel UES Discovery. We come in peace and would like to establish diplomatic relations." Veltar's crystalline form shimmered with shock. "They're broadcasting without permission. Where did they learn our language?" Before anyone could answer, another voice joined the transmission. "Captain, I'm picking up massive energy signatures from that station. The technology is incredible. Can we get closer?" "Sure thing, Lisa. Take us in." Veltar rushed to the main view screen. In the distance, a sleek gray ship approached the station at high speed. It was smaller than most council vessels, but moved with purpose and confidence that suggested advanced technology. "Attention, unknown vessel," Veltar transmitted. "You are entering restricted council space. Please halt and await proper clearance procedures." The response came immediately. "Copy that, big guy. We're just looking for a place to park. Mind if we use that empty docking bay on your lower level?" The casual tone sent waves of shock through the control room. No species had ever addressed the council so informally. Veltar watched in horror as the human ship headed straight for docking bay 94 without waiting for permission. "They're actually doing it," whispered the Aquari technician. "They're docking without authorization." Within minutes, alerts flooded the communication center. The humans had not only docked, but were already requesting atmosphere exchange and artificial gravity adjustments. They worked with their ship's systems like they had been using advanced technology for centuries, not like a primitive species making first contact. Veltar hurried toward the docking bay, his security detail following close behind. He had dealt with confused new species before, but these humans seemed to understand exactly what they were doing, while simultaneously ignoring every rule that made such understanding possible. The airlock hissed open, and 3 humans stepped onto the station. The first was the Captain Morrison from the transmission, a tall male with confident movements and eyes that missed nothing. Behind him came a female with long brown hair, who immediately began examining the station's architecture with obvious scientific interest. The third human was larger and moved like a soldier, his gaze constantly scanning for threats. "Ambassador Veltar, I presume," Captain Morrison said, extending his hand in what appeared to be a greeting gesture. "Pleasure to meet you. I'm Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Lisa Carter and General Kevin Brooks." Veltar stared at the extended hand, unsure how to respond. "Captain Morrison, you have violated numerous council protocols. New species must undergo proper evaluation procedures before—" "Oh, we figured there'd be paperwork," Morrison interrupted with a smile. "That's why we brought Lisa. She's great with forms and regulations. Kevin here handles the security side of things, and I just make sure everyone gets along." Dr. Carter stepped forward, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Ambassador, your station's design suggests a fascinating blend of technologies. At least 12 different architectural styles, probably representing different species' contributions over time. The energy distribution system alone must represent thousands of years of collaborative engineering." The casual analysis sent another shock through Veltar. This human had observed their most sophisticated technology for mere minutes, and already understood principles that took most species decades to grasp. "How did you learn our language?" Feltar managed to ask. Found one of your old probes about 50 years ago, Morrison replied. Took our scientists a while to crack the language files, but once they did, we learned quite a bit about your setup here. Impressive operation you've got. General Brooks spoke for the first time, his voice calm but alert. We noted approximately 47 different ship designs in the outer traffic patterns. Diverse fleet configurations suggest a multi-species alliance focused on trade and diplomacy rather than military expansion. Veltar's crystalline body flickered with alarm. These humans had analyzed Council capabilities before even making contact. Such tactical thinking was unprecedented among species seeking peaceful integration. We should report to the Council immediately, Dr. Carter said to her companions. This is exactly the kind of opportunity Earth has been hoping for. The Council is in session, Veltar said slowly, still trying to process the situation. You cannot simply— Great! Morrison clapped his hands together. Lead the way, Ambassador. We're eager to meet everyone. The walk to the Council chambers became a nightmare for Veltar. Dr. Carter asked constant questions about everything they passed: the artificial gravity generators, the atmospheric processing systems, the cultural artifacts from different species. Her questions revealed an understanding of advanced physics and engineering that should have taken years of study to develop. General Brooks remained quiet but observant, and Veltar noticed the humans' eyes tracking security stations, exit routes, and defensive positions with military precision. These humans were gathering intelligence even during a diplomatic introduction. When they reached the Great Council chambers, Morrison paused only briefly to appreciate the vast circular room where representatives from 47 species conducted galactic business. Impressive, he said. Then he walked straight into the chamber during an active session. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Conversation stopped. Ancient beings who had never seen disruption of Council protocol stared in shock as the three humans approached the central speaking area. Morrison raised his hand in greeting. Howdy, folks. We're from Earth, and we'd like to join your club. High Counselor Rixthane, eldest of the Aquarii and most respected leader in the chamber, finally found his voice. This is highly irregular. You have not followed proper procedures. Well, Morrison said with that same confident smile, we're human. We tend to figure things out as we go along. The silence that followed was deafening. In 12,000 years of carefully maintained order, nothing like this had ever happened. The humans stood calmly in the center of the chaos they had created, waiting for an answer. Veltar realized that everything was about to change. 3 days had passed since the humans crashed the Council session, and the station buzzed with nervous energy. High Counselor Rixthane had called for an emergency evaluation committee to determine if these strange new beings could be trusted with galactic membership. The committee gathered in Evaluation Chamber 7, a sterile white room designed to test new species fairly and thoroughly. Rixthane's amphibious features showed the strain of recent events as he reviewed the testing protocols that had worked perfectly for thousands of years. We begin with technological assessment, announced Dr. Kethvar, the Zephyrian science coordinator. His tall, thin frame and multiple arms made him ideal for operating complex testing equipment. Standard procedure requires new species to demonstrate basic understanding of faster-than-light travel, energy manipulation, and communication systems. Captain Morrison sat comfortably in the examination chair, looking completely relaxed despite being surrounded by alien technology. Dr. Carter stood nearby with a handheld device, recording everything with obvious scientific excitement. General Brooks remained by the door, alert and ready for anything. Please examine this power coupling, Dr. Kethvar said, presenting a standard energy regulator used in most Council ships. Explain its function and any improvements you might suggest. Morrison picked up the device and turned it over in his hands. Interesting design. You're using crystalline matrices to channel energy flow, probably to prevent overloading. The safety mechanisms are built right into the crystal structure itself. Dr. Kethvar nodded approvingly. Most species took hours to understand the basic principles. The main problem, Morrison continued, is efficiency loss through the secondary relay points. If you rerouted the energy flow through parallel channels instead of series connections, you could increase output by about 30% while reducing heat buildup. The room fell silent. Dr. Kethvar stared at the human, then at his testing equipment, then back at Morrison. That modification was proposed by our engineering council just last month. It took our best scientists 6 years to develop that theory. Makes sense, Morrison said, handing back the device. Good engineering principles are pretty universal. Dr. Carter stepped forward eagerly. May I examine the testing array? The quantum resonance pattern suggests some fascinating applications of subspace field manipulation. Before anyone could stop her, she had opened an access panel and was studying the internal components. Oh, this is brilliant. You're using inverse polarity fields to stabilize the quantum flux. We tried something similar on Earth, but our approach was much more crude. High Counselor Rixathane watched in growing alarm as the human scientist began suggesting modifications to equipment that had taken the Council centuries to perfect. Her casual expertise implied technological development that should have been impossible for a newly contacted species. Now we test cultural stability, announced Professor Yildana, an elderly being from the peaceful Serenity worlds. We will show you images from galactic history and record your responses. The first image appeared on the wall screen, a beautiful garden world with crystal cities and floating parks. This represents the height of Zephyrian civilization before they joined the Council. Beautiful, Dr. Carter said immediately. The integration of natural and artificial elements shows remarkable aesthetic sense and environmental awareness. And excellent defensive positioning, General Brooks added quietly. Cities placed to maximize natural barriers while maintaining clear sightlines. Whoever designed this understood both beauty and security. Professor Yildana blinked in surprise. No species had ever analyzed the defensive aspects of what was meant to be a cultural appreciation test. The next image showed a massive space battle from 2,000 years ago. This represents the Third Galactic Conflict, a terrible war that nearly destroyed civilization. The humans studied the image carefully. Dr. Carter looked sad, recognizing the destruction and loss of life. General Brooks, however, examined it with professional interest. Poor tactical deployment, Brooks observed. Both fleets are using direct assault formations with no flanking movements or strategic depth. The defending force could have won easily with proper positioning. This was not a tactical exercise, Professor Yildana said sternly. This was a tragedy that cost billions of lives. Of course, Brooks replied respectfully. Every war is a tragedy, but understanding why people lose wars helps prevent future ones. Morrison studied the image more carefully. What happened to the species that started this conflict? The question hung in the air like a poison cloud. Professor Yildana looked to High Counselor Rixathane, who slowly answered. They were relocated to distant worlds where they could no longer threaten galactic peace. Relocated? Dr. Carter asked with sharp interest. You mean exiled? We prefer the term peaceful resettlement, Rixathane said uncomfortably. And if they refuse to be resettled? Morrison asked quietly. The silence that followed was answer enough. I see, Morrison said. His casual demeanor had shifted to something more serious. So the Council maintains peace by removing species that don't conform to approved behavior patterns. Only in extreme cases, Rixathane protested. We have maintained galactic stability for 12,000 years through these methods. General Brooks spoke up. On Earth, we learned that forced peace doesn't last. People need to choose cooperation, or they'll always be looking for a chance to rebel. Your Earth has wars, Professor Yildana pointed out. How can you lecture us about peace? Because we're still fighting to get better at it, Dr. Carter answered. We haven't figured out all the answers, but we keep trying new approaches when the old ones don't work. The evaluation continued with more tests, but the results only made the committee more nervous. The humans excelled at every technical challenge, while demonstrating a disturbing tendency to question fundamental assumptions about how galactic society should operate. During the final session, Professor Amanda Walsh joined the group via video link from the human ship. Her introduction as a historian and cultural analyst immediately put the committee on edge. I've been studying your historical records, she announced cheerfully. Fascinating patterns in how you've maintained stability. You've essentially created a galactic civilization based on avoiding change rather than managing it. Change leads to conflict, Professor Yildana insisted. We have proven this through 12 millennia of experience. But you've also created stagnation, Walsh replied. Your technological advancement has slowed dramatically. Your art and literature show clear signs of cultural exhaustion. You've achieved peace by stopping growth. High Counselor Rixthane found himself defending principles that had never needed defense before. Stability allows species to live in harmony. But what's the point of living if you stop becoming more than you were? Morrison asked. Humans believe that growth and challenge make life worth living, even if it means conflict? Rixthane asked. Especially then, Morrison replied. The best things in life are worth fighting for. Peace, justice, the right to become something better than you used to be. As the evaluation committee prepared their report, they faced an unprecedented situation. The humans had demonstrated technological sophistication, tactical brilliance, and cultural complexity that exceeded most council species. But they had also challenged every assumption about how civilized beings should behave. Dr. Kethvar summed up the dilemma in his final report. The humans are clearly intelligent and capable, but they represent a fundamental threat to everything we have built. They refuse to accept that peace requires conformity. High Counselor Rixthane stared out at the stars, knowing that whatever decision the council made would change the galaxy forever. The humans had forced them to confront uncomfortable truths about their own society, and there was no going back to the comfortable certainties of yesterday. The humans waited patiently for the council's decision, apparently unconcerned about the chaos they had unleashed simply by being themselves. The alert signals echoed through the council station as Admiral Susan Torres brought her small fleet out of hyperspace. 3 human ships appeared on the long-range sensors, smaller than most council vessels, but moving with precision that suggested advanced technology and experienced crews. Ambassador Veltar rushed to the communications center, his crystalline form flickering with anxiety. Captain Morrison, did you summon military vessels to our station? Morrison looked up from where he was sharing coffee with Dr. Carter in the station's observation lounge. Oh, that's probably Susan. I sent a routine status report to Earth a few days ago. Standard procedure when we encounter new situations. Standard procedure includes calling military fleets? Veltar asked with growing alarm. Only when we're dealing with unknown capabilities and potential threats, General Brooks replied calmly. Admiral Torres is just here to provide security for our diplomatic mission. High Counselor Rixthane arrived in the communications center as the human ships requested docking permission. Unlike Morrison's casual approach, these vessels followed proper protocols while simultaneously demonstrating technologies that made council sensors struggle to get accurate readings. Permission to come aboard, Admiral Torres transmitted. Her voice carried authority that made even the seasoned council members straighten up. I have additional diplomatic personnel and security specialists to support our mission. Granted, Rixthane replied. Though he was already regretting the decision, Admiral Torres proved to be a compact woman with gray-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing. She moved with the confidence of someone who had commanded starships through dangerous situations and emerged victorious. Behind her came a squad of human Marines led by Sergeant Pete Johnson. The Marines created an immediate stir. They wore simple gray uniforms, but moved with a fluid precision that made Council security forces look clumsy by comparison. Each human carried equipment that seemed both familiar and alien, weapons that looked functional rather than ceremonial, tools designed for efficiency rather than appearance. Admiral, good to see you, Morrison greeted his superior officer. How was the trip? Smooth sailing. Dr. Mitchell is unloading his equipment now. The Council requested a demonstration of our defensive capabilities, so I brought some examples. Veltar felt his crystalline structure vibrate with worry. Demonstration? We made no such request. Standard diplomatic procedure, Torres replied easily. When establishing relations with a new political entity, it's customary to show good faith by sharing information about mutual capabilities. Dr. Chris Mitchell joined the group, carrying a case of devices that made Council sensors register energy signatures they couldn't identify. His cheerful demeanor contrasted sharply with the serious nature of his equipment. Wonderful station you have here, Mitchell said to Veltar. The defensive systems are particularly interesting. Very traditional design philosophy. Multiple overlapping fields with redundant backup systems. You analyzed our defenses? Rixthane asked sharply. Only the external systems visible to standard sensors, Mitchell replied innocently. Professional habit. I specialize in defensive technology development. Meanwhile, Sergeant Johnson had requested permission to conduct routine training exercises with his Marines in one of the station's large cargo bays. Veltar agreed, thinking it would be harmless physical exercise. He was wrong. The cargo bay filled with council personnel who had never seen human military training. What they witnessed challenged every assumption about how civilized beings conducted warfare. The Marines moved like a single organism, each individual perfectly coordinated with the others. They practiced combat scenarios with weapons that fired energy pulses, demonstrating accuracy and tactical thinking that exceeded anything the Council's military forces had achieved. "They treat war like a science," whispered Commander Zektul of the Hegemony Guards, one of the galaxy's most respected military units. "Look how they adapt to each situation instantly." Johnson's squad demonstrated room clearing, shipboarding, defensive positions, and assault tactics with equal skill. Most disturbing was their casual attitude toward what other species considered the most serious of activities. "Okay, people, let's run the hostage rescue scenario again," Johnson called out. "Remember speed and precision. We go in hard, secure the area, extract the package, and get out clean." The Marines executed the exercise flawlessly, treating the simulated life-or-death situation as routine work, requiring nothing more than professional competence. Dr. Mitchell's presentation to the Council Defense Committee created even more anxiety. He casually displayed weapons designed to counter every type of alien technology they had encountered in the Council's historical databases. "When we discovered the probe 50 years ago, we naturally began developing countermeasures for potential threats," Mitchell explained to the horrified committee members. "Standard security protocol requires preparation for various scenarios." "You developed weapons specifically to fight us?" demanded General Vornak of the warrior caste worlds. "We developed weapons to defend ourselves if diplomacy failed," Mitchell corrected. "Big difference. These are purely defensive systems designed to disable rather than destroy whenever possible." The weapons he demonstrated were indeed defensive in nature, but their sophistication terrified the Council representatives. The humans had analyzed alien technology and created countermeasures in mere decades, something that should have taken centuries of development. The real crisis began when distress signals reached the station from a nearby trading post. Pirates were attacking the commercial facility, threatening hundreds of civilian lives. High Counselor Rixthane immediately convened an emergency session to discuss appropriate response. The Council had established procedures for such situations: careful deliberation, formal voting, selection of appropriate forces, and diplomatic attempts to resolve the situation peacefully. "The emergency protocols require 6 hours minimum for proper consultation," Rixthane announced. "We must consider all options and ensure our response follows established guidelines." Admiral Torres listened politely for about 10 minutes before raising her hand. "Excuse me, Counselor. How many people are at that trading post?" "Approximately 800 civilians plus crew," replied the Aquari Information Specialist. "And how long can they hold out against the pirates?" "Unknown. Perhaps 2 hours before defensive systems fail completely." Torres stood up calmly. "Permission to assist, Counselor. My ships can reach that position in 40 minutes. "But we haven't completed the consultation process," Rixthane protested. "There are procedures to follow." "People are dying while we talk about procedures," Torres replied. "Captain Morrison, please coordinate with Council forces for search and rescue operations. We'll handle the immediate threat." The Admiral left the chamber before anyone could object, taking her Marines with her. Within minutes, the human ships were accelerating toward the crisis at speeds that pushed their engines to maximum performance. Council observers watched in amazement as the human fleet approached the pirate vessels. Instead of the formal challenge and honorable combat preferred by galactic military traditions, the humans used tactics that seemed to come from nightmare scenarios. Torres's ships attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, using sensor jamming and deceptive maneuvers to confuse the pirates. The human vessels moved unpredictably, making it impossible for the pirates to coordinate their defense. "They're not following any recognized combat protocols," observed Commander Zektul, watching the battle display with professional fascination and growing horror. The pirates never had a chance to fight back effectively. The humans struck fast, disabled the pirate vessels with precise weapon fire, and secured the area before most Council species would have finished their pre-battle preparations. "Total engagement time, 47 minutes, reported the tactical officer. "Human casualties 0. Pirate vessels, 4 captured, none destroyed. Civilian casualties, 3 injured, none killed. The trading post was saved, but the council faced a terrible realization. The humans had demonstrated military capabilities that made them potentially the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Their casual efficiency in warfare suggested a species that had perfected the art of conflict while maintaining enough restraint to avoid unnecessary destruction. High Counselor Rixthane stared at the tactical display, showing human ships securing the area with professional competence. "What have we invited into our galaxy?" he whispered. Admiral Torres returned to the station 3 hours later, filing her report with the same casual efficiency she had shown in combat. To her, saving 800 lives was simply another day's work. The Council faced an unprecedented situation, a species that could potentially defeat their combined military forces, while claiming to want nothing more than peaceful cooperation. President Catherine Bell stepped off the transport ship with the quiet confidence of someone who had been elected to represent 3 billion people. Her arrival at the Council station sent ripples of confusion through the carefully ordered diplomatic community, starting with the simple fact that she existed at all. "I don't understand," Ambassador Veltar said to High Counselor Rixthane as they prepared to greet Earth's official representative. "She claims to speak for their entire planet, but she's not royalty, not military, and not appointed by any ruling council. How can she have authority? Their political system defies classification," Rixthane replied, studying the briefing reports with growing bewilderment. "She was chosen by popular vote for a limited term and intends to voluntarily transfer power to her successor." The concept of voluntary power transfer was so alien to most council species that several ambassadors had requested additional translation protocols, believing their language systems were malfunctioning. President Bell entered the main diplomatic reception area, accompanied by Dr. Robert Kim, introduced as a philosopher and ethicist, and Sam Taylor, a young engineer whose presence puzzled the assembled dignitaries. Most species sent either their oldest and wisest representatives or their most accomplished leaders. The humans had brought someone who appeared barely old enough to operate complex machinery. "Honored council members," President Bell began, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "I come representing the United Earth government and the 3 billion humans who chose me to speak for them in this historic moment." "Chose you?" interrupted Ambassador Threndar of the Imperial Hegemony. "How does a population choose their leader? Do you mean your military selected you after demonstrating superior combat skills?" "Not exactly," Bell replied with a slight smile. "Every adult human cast a vote for the candidate they preferred. I received the most votes, so I became president." The silence that followed was deafening. Ambassador Threndar's species had been ruled by the same royal family for 8,000 years. The concept of common citizens selecting their leader was like suggesting that gravity should flow upward. "But how do you maintain order?" asked Chancellor Morgeth of the Unified Worlds. "If anyone can become a leader, how do you prevent chaos and rebellion?" Dr. Kim stepped forward, his academic manner contrasting with the warrior diplomats surrounding him. "We've found that people who choose their government are more likely to support it, even when they disagree with specific decisions. When citizens have a voice in their leadership, they feel invested in making the system work." "And when your term ends?" Rixthane asked carefully. "You will simply give up power?" "Of course," Bell replied, as if the question itself was strange. "I was elected for 8 years maximum. After that, the people will choose someone else." The diplomatic chamber buzzed with confused whispers in dozens of languages. Several species had emergency consultations with their home governments, trying to understand how a political system based on temporary leadership could function. The cultural shock deepened when Sam Taylor was introduced to the station's engineering council. At 23 years old, he was younger than most species considered ready for basic technical training. Yet he carried credentials suggesting expertise in advanced engineering principles. Chief Engineer Calseth of the Technical Union greeted the young human with polite skepticism. "We appreciate your interest in our systems, but these technologies require decades of study to understand properly." "Oh, I know I've got a lot to learn," Sam replied enthusiastically. "But I noticed something interesting about your power distribution grid. You're losing about 15% efficiency through harmonic resonance in the primary conduits." Calseth's multiple eyes focused on the human with sudden attention. "That problem has existed for over 200 years. Our best engineers have been unable to solve it. Mind if I take a look? Sam asked, already moving toward the engineering displays. Back on Earth, we deal with similar issues in our quantum processors. What followed horrified every council engineer present. Sam studied their most complex systems for 30 minutes, asked a few basic questions about power loads and harmonic frequencies, then sketched out a solution that their top specialists had missed for 2 centuries. The problem is resonance feedback in your tertiary stabilizers, he explained casually. If you modify the phase alignment by 12 degrees and add dampening fields at these 3 points, the harmonic distortion should disappear. Calseth ran the calculations through the engineering computers. The solution was elegant, simple, and completely correct. How did you discover this so quickly? Fresh perspective, I guess, Sam shrugged. Sometimes when you've been looking at a problem the same way for a long time, you miss obvious solutions. The implications sent shockwaves through council leadership. Their society valued age, experience, and careful adherence to established methods. The humans routinely encouraged young people to question authority and suggest improvements to systems designed by their elders. Dr. Kim found himself in heated discussions with council philosophers about fundamental principles of social organization. Your society has achieved remarkable stability, he acknowledged. But stability without growth becomes stagnation. Growth leads to conflict, insisted Elder Wisdom Keeper Zurvash of the ancient paths. We have learned through painful experience that change brings chaos, but without change, you stop becoming more than you were, Kim replied. Humans believe that the struggle to improve ourselves is what makes life meaningful, even if improvement brings danger. Especially then, the most worthwhile achievements require risk and effort. The philosophical debate spread throughout the station as council members grappled with concepts they had never seriously considered. Species that had spent millennia perfecting unchanging social systems suddenly found themselves questioning whether perfection might actually be a form of death. President Bell's formal address to the full council became the most watched diplomatic event in galactic history. Representatives from 47 species gathered to hear what this human leader would propose for the future of galactic civilization. Honored counselors, Bell began, standing confidently in the center of the vast chamber, we come before you with deep respect for what you have accomplished. 12,000 years of peace is an achievement beyond anything Earth has managed. Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. The humans seemed to understand their place as junior partners in an established order. But, Bell continued, and the single word sent tension crackling through the chamber. We also come with a different perspective on what peace means and how it can be maintained. She gestured to the magnificent chamber around them. You have created stability by eliminating variables. You've achieved harmony by removing discord. These are valid approaches, but they are not the only approaches. You suggest our methods are flawed? Demanded Elder Zarketh of the Conservative Alliance. I suggest they are incomplete, Bell replied diplomatically. You have mastered the art of preserving what exists. We would like to contribute the art of creating what could exist. The president's speech continued for 30 minutes, outlining humanity's vision of a galactic community that grew stronger through diversity, rather than weaker through difference. She proposed joint research projects, cultural exchange programs, and collaborative exploration missions that would benefit all species while respecting their individual characteristics. We don't seek to replace your achievements, she concluded. We seek to build upon them. We don't want to tear down your stability. We want to help it grow into something even greater. The silence that followed was pregnant with possibility and terror. For 12,000 years, the Council had maintained peace through careful control and gradual consensus. The humans offered a future where peace came through dynamic balance and constant adaptation. High Counselor Rick Thane found himself facing the most difficult decision in Council history. The humans had demonstrated that they could enhance galactic civilization in ways that had never been imagined. But they had also shown that accepting their partnership would mean abandoning the conservative principles that had kept the galaxy stable for millennia. President Bell waited calmly for the Council's response, apparently confident that reasonable beings would eventually choose growth over stagnation, hope over fear. The future of galactic civilization hung in the balance, and everyone knew that whatever decision the Council made would echo through history for thousands of years to come. Elder Zarketh stood before the Emergency Council Assembly, his ancient form radiating the authority of 5,000 years of political experience. As leader of the Conservative Alliance, he commanded respect from species across the galaxy who valued tradition and stability above all else. "Honored counselors," he began, his voice carrying the weight of millennia, "we face a choice that will determine the fate of galactic civilization. These humans represent everything we have struggled to prevent: chaos disguised as progress, destruction disguised as improvement." Murmurs of agreement rippled through portions of the assembly. Many species had watched the human demonstrations with growing alarm, recognizing that accepting Earth into the Council would change everything they had worked to preserve. They claimed to offer partnership, Zarketh continued, but their very presence has already shattered protocols that have maintained peace for 12,000 years. They question our wisdom, challenge our methods, and propose changes to systems that have proven their worth through countless generations. In the observation gallery, President Bell watched calmly as the elder politician built his case for humanity's rejection. Beside her, Captain Morrison seemed unconcerned by the passionate arguments against his species. "Look at their military capabilities," Zarketh declared. "They have developed weapons specifically designed to counter our defenses. They treat warfare as a casual exercise rather than the solemn last resort of civilized beings. Can we trust such creatures with the secrets of galactic civilization?" High Counselor Rixthane felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Half the council supported Zarketh's position, viewing the humans as a dangerous disruption to galactic order. The other half, inspired by human innovations and perspectives, argued for acceptance despite the risks. The debate had raged for days when Captain Alex Murphy's exploration vessel transmitted an emergency signal from the outer system. His ship had discovered something that changed everything. "Council Station, this is Captain Murphy aboard UES Pathfinder. We've found something you need to see immediately. Automated defense platforms, ancient design, powering up throughout this sector." Dr. Helen Foster, the xenopsychologist studying Council Society, appeared on the main communication screen. Her excited voice carried undertones of fear. "The platforms match descriptions from your historical archives, destroyer-class automated weapons left behind by the Devourers." A collective gasp echoed through the council chamber. The Devourers had been an ancient species that destroyed itself in a fit of xenophobic madness 3,000 years ago, but not before creating automated weapons designed to eliminate all other intelligent life. "The platforms are responding to increased galactic traffic patterns," Murphy reported. "Our arrival here must have triggered their activation protocols. They're targeting any vessel using faster-than-light technology." Within hours, the ancient threat materialized in deadly reality. Destroyer platforms emerged from hidden positions throughout the system, their weapons charging with energy signatures that made council sensors scream warnings. The automated systems had been dormant for millennia, waiting for sufficient galactic activity to justify their terrible purpose. Elder Zarketh found himself facing the collapse of everything he had fought to preserve. "Our defense fleets cannot handle this threat. The platforms use technologies we barely understand, and there are too many of them. Traditional council tactics won't work," Admiral Torres observed grimly. "These machines don't follow the rules of honorable combat. They're designed to kill efficiently without regard for military protocol." The first engagement proved disastrous for council forces. 3 ships from the proud Hegemony Navy approached a destroyer platform using standard battle formations and formal challenge procedures. The ancient machine simply destroyed them without acknowledgement or warning. "They don't understand diplomacy," Dr. Foster analyzed. "The Devourers created these weapons to eliminate anything they perceived as threats. Reasoning with them is impossible." High Counselor Rixthane stared at the tactical displays showing more platforms activating throughout the system. "How many are there?" "At least 30 confirmed, probably more," Murphy reported. "They're coordinating their activities through some kind of quantum communication network. We're dealing with a unified defense system designed by a species that wanted to kill everything in the galaxy. The Council's greatest military leaders gathered for emergency planning, but their traditional approaches seemed helpless against an enemy that fought without honor, negotiation, or restraint. The ancient machine simply attacked anything that moved, using weapons that pierced Council shields like they were made of paper." Elder Zarketh approached President Bell with the humility of someone watching his entire worldview crumble. "Your people think differently than we do. Can you help us survive what we cannot?" The question marked a fundamental shift in galactic politics. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Council faced a problem that their careful, conservative methods could not solve. Captain Morrison studied the tactical data with Admiral Torres and General Brooks. These platforms are using pattern recognition to target FTL signatures. They expect us to approach predictably. So we don't, Torres replied. We change our approach vectors constantly, use deceptive tactics, and coordinate in ways that confuse their targeting systems. Dr. Carter worked frantically with Council scientists to understand the ancient technology. The Devourers were brilliant but paranoid. They designed these weapons to counter every type of conventional attack, but they couldn't anticipate tactics that hadn't been invented yet. The combined human and Council fleet that emerged from the planning sessions looked unlike anything in galactic military history. Council ships provided heavy firepower and defensive capabilities, while human vessels contributed speed, unpredictability, and tactical innovations that confused the ancient targeting systems. Sam Taylor found himself working alongside alien engineers to create hybrid technologies that neither species could have developed alone. If we combine your shield harmonics with our sensor jamming, we can create false signatures that will draw fire away from our main attack vessels. The battle for the system became a masterpiece of improvised cooperation. Human ships darted between ancient weapons like insects, drawing fire and confusing targeting systems, while Council vessels delivered massive firepower from unexpected angles. Dr. Foster's psychological analysis proved crucial in predicting machine behavior. The Devourers thought like conquerors. Their machines expect enemies to fight for territory and glory. They can't adapt to opponents who fight to save lives rather than claim victories. Admiral Torres coordinated the final assault with Council Admiral Kemthara, their two fleets moving in perfect synchronization, despite using completely different tactical philosophies. The human emphasis on adaptability combined with Council precision and firepower to create something greater than either could achieve alone. Target the central coordination node. Torres transmitted to all vessels. If we can disrupt their command network, the individual platforms will lose strategic coordination. The attack succeeded through sheer audacity and innovative thinking. Human ships created diversions that drew platform fire, while Council vessels delivered precisely targeted strikes that overwhelmed ancient defenses. The coordination node exploded in a burst of energy that left the remaining platforms operating independently and far less effectively. System secure, reported Captain Murphy. All destroyer platforms neutralized or disabled. The threat has been eliminated. The victory celebration was muted by the realization that everything had changed. The Council had faced extinction and survived only through cooperation with the humans they had considered rejecting. High Counselor Rixathane called for a final vote on humanity's membership, but the debate had moved far beyond simple acceptance or rejection. The question is no longer whether humans should join the Council. The question is how we should restructure galactic civilization to accommodate new ways of thinking. Elder Zarketh surprised everyone by supporting the restructuring proposal. We have learned that perfect stability is perfect death. The humans have shown us that growth and challenge make survival possible. The final vote was unanimous, not to accept humanity as the 48th member species, but to transform the entire Council into something new. The Galactic Alliance would encourage diversity rather than conformity, innovation rather than tradition, and cooperation rather than submission. President Bell addressed the transformed Council with quiet satisfaction. This is not the end of what you built here. This is the beginning of what we can build together. Captain Morrison found himself working alongside Ambassador Veltar to design new first contact protocols that would accommodate species as unpredictable as humanity. When Veltar asked what they should do when the next unusual species arrived, Morrison grinned and replied, "We'll figure it out as we go. That's what humans do best." The galaxy had learned that peace through stagnation was fragile, but peace through growth and adaptation could survive any challenge. The Galactic Alliance faced an uncertain future, but for the first time in millennia, uncertainty felt like hope rather than fear.